Joining us now to take a look at the potential legal impact of the situation is Regent University law professor James Duane, who also wrote the book, You Have the Right to Remain Innocent. Professor, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much. I'm glad to be with you.
How might Cohen's statement in court provide basis for pursuing indictment against the president?
Well, it's of course too soon to say for sure what will happen next, but according to the terms of the plea agreement that Michael Cohen entered in federal court, he is alleging that the criminal activity that he conducted was done with the consent of the president and at the direction of the president. Obviously, we don't know yet whether that's true, and we all know from experience that the statements that are made by people when they are pleading guilty, trying to spread the blame, are notoriously unreliable. But if those allegations could be proved, there is a possibility that the Justice Department might decide to pursue an indictment against the president. It's too soon to say, of course.
Well, Professor, along those lines, we've read about the Justice Department's stance on indicting a sitting president, but could there be an indictment that's put off temporarily until the president's out of office?
I think that's almost certainly possible, yes. There's nothing in the Constitution that says a president has lifetime immunity from criminal prosecution for crimes that he commits while he's in office or while he's running for office. If an indictment were pursued against President Trump after he left office, you could safely expect that his attorneys would probably try to raise some novel legal arguments and try to persuade the courts that perhaps as a matter of policy, the Constitution ought to be interpreted in a way that would preclude a president from being indicted based upon his official activities in the course of an election or in the course of his administration. But at this point, that would be a novel argument. The Supreme Court has never yet decided that question, and we'll have to wait and see what they say about it, if that's what in fact happens.
Professor, in the last day or so, the word impeachment has been spoken much more. What are your thoughts around this?
About the impeachment? Well,
Yes,
impeachment is a very difficult thing to obtain, as you know. Under the Constitution, a president can't be impeached and removed from office without the consent of a majority of the members of the House of Representatives, and then the consent of 2/3 of the members of the United States Senate, which makes it very, very difficult to impeach a sitting president, and it's almost never happened, as you know. So, the impeachment is available under the Constitution only if a president is guilty of criminal activity. The Constitution calls it high crimes and misdemeanors. And so you can't be impeached and removed from office merely because you may have been guilty of some bad judgment or consorting with or the wrong kind of people or showing questionable judgment in your choice of associates or attorneys or campaign managers. They'd have to be able to prove that he was guilty of a criminal offense, a serious criminal offense, and they'd have to prove to the satisfaction of 2/3 of the senators that those criminal activities on his part were serious enough that they would justify this virtually unprecedented sanction of his removal from office.
Professor, what would be your advice in terms of sitting down with the independent counsel?
My advice to President Trump?
Mm-hmm.
Well, my advice to him would be the same advice, I suppose, that Justice Robert Jackson gave on the Supreme Court of the United States more than 50 years ago. Justice Robert Jackson said that any lawyer worth his salt will advise his client not to talk to police officers or other government agents under any circumstances. That's the whole point behind my book, You Have the Right to Remain Innocent. There's just too many risks, there's too much to lose, and too little to gain. That's what police officers routinely advise their own children. Don't talk to the police. They'll tell other criminal suspects something altogether different when they're with them at the station in the daytime. But at night when they go home, they tell their own children, don't talk to the police. That's the advice they give their own loved ones. That's the advice I would give to any client, even including the President of the United States.
Professor James Duane, thank you so much. Great to have you.
Thank you. It's been my pleasure to be with you.